Macy's basement. There had been a group of school kids singing Christmas carols at the bottom of the escalator, and any thoughts of violence at the hands of strangers had faded. It was probably the season. Almost everybody was uptight at Christmas. He'd been casually inspecting some stoneware, with his 2 boys earning their allowance by doing the dishes. The attrition rate among the cereal bowls had been fierce, when he thought he saw somebody staring at him from the center aisle. He'd almost knocked over a serving platter when he jerked around, but there had been nobody there except some harried housewives and bored husbands browsing among the automatic bread makers and the copper-bottomed pans. From then on, it had been all downhill. There was something in the basement, and it was after him. Panicked, he pushed his way to the escalator, and a moment later was on the street, the chill night air seeping beneath his coat and turning his sweaty shirt clammy. He'd managed a shambling run down Gary for 6 blocks, then north on Larkin, looking over his shoulder every 5 steps and cursing to himself, because he never saw anybody following him, though he knew damn well somebody was stalking him on the open street. The pause in the doorway had given him a little time to calm down. He should call the restaurant. It was almost 6, and Mitch and Artie and the others would be there by now. He could catch a cab, or maybe somebody could pick him up. Or maybe he should just call the cops. Tell them his name was Dr. Lawrence Shea, that he was a law-abiding citizen, and he was being followed by somebody he didn't know for reasons he didn't know. He'd probably sound like a drunk or an idiot, or maybe both, but it was better than running. There was a phone in its plastic hood next to an alleyway, and he hurried over to it, fumbled in his pocket for a quarter, heard it drop, and frantically dialed. The restaurant first, and then 911. It took a moment before he realized there was no dial tone, that the armored cord on the handset was swinging free where somebody had yanked it out. He stared at the dangling cord for a moment, ignoring the sweat that trickled down his forehead and into his eyes. Sweet Jesus! He stood there, holding the phone, refusing to move. He'd make them come to him, make them show themselves. As soon as he thought it, his heart started beating wildly, and his chest felt as if somebody had him in a bear hug. The shirt, bunched up in his armpit, started soaking up sweat like a bath towel. Medically, he knew he was probably having a panic attack, but he couldn't forget those patients who had dropped dead with no previous history of heart disease. He was a doctor. He was aware of the symptoms, but it didn't make any difference. His nerves had tightened up until they were stiff enough to squeak, and he was sure he could feel the beginnings of chest pains. He slammed the handset back into its cradle and fled up Larkin, grateful when the heaviness in his chest suddenly eased and his heartbeat slowed. Once, he glimpsed himself in the window of a second-hand magazine store, his face framed by ancient copies of the Saturday Evening Post, and look. A frightened man in his middle 40s, just beginning to go to fat, with thinning brown hair, pale face, eyes sunken and terrified, lips pulled away from clenched teeth. It was the wrong season of the year, he thought. It was Christmas, and he was wearing a Halloween mask. He realized it had been a mistake to leave the holiday crowds downtown, that he would have been much safer there than in the seedy area around Larkin and Post. Nobody was buying Christmas presents at the porno stores or massage parlors, and few people were enjoying a holiday dinner at the Thai or Vietnamese restaurants that dotted the neighborhood. He'd head back to Union Square. He could lose himself in the crowds. Nothing would happen to him surrounded by shoppers. He turned to hurry south down Larkin, and once again his heart tumbled into an erratic, rapid beating. He blindly turned and ran back north, indifferent to the young Asian kids who watched, wide-eyed, before they ducked out of his way. He tried to force himself to calm down, to think logically about who might be following him and what they might want. It never occurred to him that he was being herded. It was getting darker now, and the streets were emptying quickly. People chased indoors by the cold and the start of a chill drizzle. Shay could feel his legs trembling, his muscles giving out, and he knew he couldn't run much farther. He was out of shape. He'd never followed the advice he'd given his patients to stop smoking and exercise more. He could slip into a restaurant. He'd be safer among people. But the moment the idea crossed his mind, he felt a brief spasm.